Sun dropping low over Indianola, dust on my boots, map on my phone. You've been waiting there since 9:30. I'm rolling in, I ain't far from home. Tonight we're meeting in the city of Indianola. Clock says 6, but my heart's there now. Thank you for being patient, baby, just a little longer. I'm counting down the streets somehow. It won't be much longer till I'm right where you are. Red light glare on the old grain silo. Text on my screen is still gonna show. I'm talking to the dash like it's a preacher. Get me there on time, don't let me blow it. Tonight we're meeting in the city of Indianola. Clock says 6, but my heart's there now. Thank you for being patient, baby, just a little longer. I'm counting down the streets somehow. It won't be much longer till I'm right where you are. You at that corner booth watching the door. I'm in this line of cars swearing I'll hurry more. Every mile between us feels like a mile too far, but I can see the neon from my car. Hey! Tonight we're meeting in the city of Indianola. Clock says 6, but my heart's there now. Thank you for being patient, baby, just a little longer. I'm counting down the streets somehow. It won't be much longer till I'm right where you are. Ticket on my phone, sky turning that bruised blue tone. You text, I'm on my way, running late, but I'll still stay. Church sign says 5:59, neon pumps, I'm in a crooked line. Every minute drags and bends, I scroll all messages again. Indianola at 6, thank you for waiting through this. You said it won't be much longer. I whisper it back till I'm stronger. Indianola tonight, under this flickering light. If you're a little delayed, I'll stay. I've waited for you all my life anyway. Bus cross past, then it's gone. Kids kick cans, argue and move on. I watch the street on the map, tiny blue dot, inches back. You said you're stuck in that same old jam, same excuse, but I don't mind the drag. Every second aches and swings, my heart keeps punching through my ribs. Indianola at 6, thank you for waiting through this. You said it won't be much longer. I whisper it back till I'm calmer. Indianola tonight,
Charge on?
I guess so. That's what I'm told anyway.
All right, you're on.
All right. So we'll call to order the Joint City Council and IMU Board of Trustees meeting for March 17th, 2026. Jackie, are you taking roll?
Councilmember Rabe,
Here.
Dalby,
Here.
Armstrong, Davis,
Here.
Stones,
Present.
Lane,
Here.
Mayor Richardson, Trustee Selgrade,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
White,
Here.
Woods,
Here.
Craven,
Here.
All right, so the first agenda item here is the discussion and direction regarding health insurance renewals.
Before we start, I have to apologize, I have to leave early today,
Okay.
so, but I get it, please, that's
Sounds
what's
good.
going
All right. I just make sure it's not directed towards me. All right, okay.
Assume that you
That's
don't
why I
like
mentioned
no
it,
runs.
anyway, I think I was going out mad.
But if people follow you, I think they'll.
So Jake, who do we have presenting then for this?
Got Joe.
You're up, Joe.
Joe Stopulus, I'm with Holmes Murphy and Associates. We've been here as a broker on the benefits for some time now. And obviously the goal of this meeting is to answer any questions you guys may have regarding the employee benefits, the renewal that we have proposed for you. There we go. All right, so we'll go right into page 5, get into the nuts and bolts of the financial snapshot. So the numbers you see here, this might be a little new format for you. We've invested in some reporting capabilities, and so maybe a little different than years past, a little more detailed, but it brings you to a nice snapshot on the next page. But I'll kind of walk through line by line of what this looks like for you. So on the left-hand side there, you'll see your employee headcount. That is by month. So each month, how many employees are enrolled in the plan. Next to that is the member count. That is including every belly button on the plan. So if you have an additional spouse and children, that's where we get that number from. Then we add up all the medical claims per month, the pharmacy claims per month, and then we less out any stop-loss reimbursements. And obviously that is for anything that gets above that stop-loss limit, we're going to get back from the carrier, and that's shown there in the red. When you add all those together, subtract out the stop-loss reimbursements, that gives us our total net claims, which in this current year is at the $873,000. You can see right below that number, you'll see the $665,000. That was where we were last year. Obviously, a pretty significant change of the 31%. I'll note that everything below that number, all that whole bottom line there, that's all done on a PEPM basis. So we take all the numbers that you guys had based on your actual head count for that year. And so that gives us an opportunity to say, how does this shape up versus if we had a big change in enrollment, right? So yeah, claims might be up, but if we had way more people, that makes sense. Well, in this case, you can see you actually were up 33%. You had a few less people too. So 33% was the amount that was over on a PEPM basis. The administration cost, 1% up. That was what we expected from last year's increase. Stop loss premiums were up 12%. Then you're going to see this thing called the RX rebate credit. You may remember last year, kind of a unique thing from Wellmark. Wellmark took their book of business and said, hey, we will offer any group that wants it a credit. And the credit was for $100 PEPM, so $100 per employee per month, in lieu of rebates. So instead of getting rebates back, you guys would then take this credit to the tune of $100 per employee per month. Well, for all of our groups, usually when an insurance carrier offers you something, they're not doing it to lose money, by and large. And so what we do for each of our groups is to say, hey, let's see where your guys' on average PEPM credits came back from a rebate standpoint. And then we would decide based on because it all depends on the drug mix of your group, right? So if your group has 0 drug claims, you'd be stupid to not take this, right? Because they're going to give you $100 a head. If you have a very high RX usage and it's in specialty medication, you might have $200, $300 per head. In which case, Wellmark's going to win, right? So for each of our groups, we go through one by one and say, hey, does it make sense to get on this or not? In your case, the average was about $50, around $50 PEPM, given where you were last year. So we voted last year to say, hey, let's get onto this thing and get the $100 PEPM, which actually has worked to your favor. So that's what you're seeing in the rebate credit area there, the negative $12,000 a month. And then you'll see you did get some pharmacy rebates. Those are from last year. Those are always paid in arrears. And so they're still kind of trickling through. You can see they've kind of slowed down there since November.
So the rebate credit, was that new this year?
That was new this year. So you can see, if you look at this page, on right here, the 990, I'll get to this next, but you'll see that there's fixed fees of 228. Those went down to that 186, right? So that comes out of the actual fee that you pay to Wellmark. So there's a line item in there, right? So every year we look at this. This is something that, this is not like obviously was new to Wellmark last year. And the 100 was a big number. UHC does it for 30. So like $30 a head. So that one's a lot. You probably aren't going to take that. And actually, Wellmark just upped it to 110. So you'll see as we get further in, Wellmark has moved that carrot even further up. And so next year it'll be 110 per member.
Because that was one of my questions for Jake and Chris, is I typically don't see that
Yep.
being subtracted from fixed costs. I see that being subtracted from claims, but with your explanation, I
Yeah.
can see why that's subtracted from fixed costs, because it's just
It's an admin credit.
it's a credit to the
Off the
employee.
top, yeah. And so again, if you guys had a makeup of your drugs that were really high, Humiras and Stellaras and Skyrizzi's and stuff, we would say, don't take what Wellmark's giving you. You'll get a huge rebate credit that will more than offset that. Again, this was a huge thing for us last year. We went through all the work of all our clients saying, does this make sense to do this, right? Because in our world, the PBM side is really driving a lot of claims. So if you go back 12 years ago, pharmacy was about 10% of spend. Today, pharmacy is closer to 30% of spend, right? And so as that grows, that's a bigger piece of it. One of the things, I know this question come up about the PBM itself. So you guys are with CVS Caremark. You have under 250 contracts. So the contracts are based on the left number, far left number, total employees. So you're not even halfway there. Wellmark doesn't even allow you to look outside of CVS Caremark, outside of the, unless you have 250 or more employees. So for us, the only things we can do, we have a full pharmacy team. We aren't able to even market your RX to a different PBM unless you were to leave Wellmark. But if you leave Wellmark, you lose your discounts and all the other stuff. And so with Wellmark, really the only things we can pull are kind of the internal Wellmark RX things they have. So for example, looking at the pharmacy rebate credit, Prudent RX, things like that we've already kind of pulled from the Wellmark side.
What's driven the big increase?
This year?
10 to 30%.
Yeah, we'll look at the next. So there's a few things. I'll kind of look at the next slide a little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll get to the far right there. Total plan cost of the 1 million, just over 1 million. Obviously, to your point there, that's 17% more than it was last year. Less out employee contributions, which you can note there have held exactly steady, right? So we didn't touch employee contributions; those are the same as last year. And then the net plan costs are up at 21%. When you look down here on page 6, all of this data is fed from this, from the data up top, right? So everything you see here feeds into this. So I like this because it's kind of as a dashboard that we can quickly look at on a monthly basis and say, boom, where are we compared to years past? Top left-hand side, total gross cost, that's just taking the absolute total cost of the plan. Net plan lesses out any employee contributions into that. So you'll see there that we're just under 14,400 for total gross. You less out the employee contributions, we're at that 12.5. The surplus and deficit, that is compared to budget. So on the budgeted side there, that purple line of budget, that is where the city of Indianola sets their budget. That is not where Wellmark sets their budget. That's not where Holmes Murphy sets it. That is your guys' budget. We input your data on where you decide to do accruals at, and then that way we can compare year to year on how you guys are performing versus budget. Which is great on the way this data is set up, is that we can, on a PEPM basis, look year over year how that's going. And then on the bottom there, we can actually go through and say, how is it going and where are those numbers coming from? So this is interesting because 2 years ago, you'll see you guys had a cost in the teal there of the $1,009. Last year you went down to the $991, and this year you're up to the $1,208. Let's go back 2 years. You had a very, very large claimant that year, and you had reimbursements in the stop loss of basically 700. It was in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it worked out to about $770 PEPM. Last year you had zero. So you look at this year or 2 years ago versus last year, and the claims went down. You guys had way more claims 2 years ago. You had way more claims 2 years ago, but it was all in stop loss. So you got hit hard in the stop loss because Wellmark lost their tail on you guys, like big time, $1 million claim, lost their tail on you. Last year, yeah, you went down. You went down a lot. You guys had a really good year last year, and you had no reimbursement. So last year was kind of the anomaly, super clean, almost no place to go but up kind of year. And you look at how that year happened. The fixed fees of the 228, pharmacy of the 151, medical claims of the 612, and then you left out those employee contributions and you had no stop loss reimbursements. All right, and you would had basically very few on the RX reimbursements either. You looked at this year, we're up to the 143 PEPM on the reimbursements, but our medical claims have gone up fairly significantly and our pharmacy claims have gone up fairly significantly. Obviously, we did decrease those fixed fees, but yeah, you went up to your 12.8 right now. That will probably level off and come down a bit depending on how claims shake out, but because we're already into January, these are through January, people who have hit stop loss, any of those large claimants that have hit stop loss, they're not affecting you anymore, and you're only getting reimbursements on that. So it tends to level off towards the end of the year, barring any other major claimants that pop on the plan. But so the question here is, what do we think is normal? Well, 2 years ago was 1,000 a person. Now we're down to 990. Those are pretty standard. This year you're up to 12. Is that a new normal or not? And that plays into the budgeting of this. Where do we think it is? And obviously Holmes Murphy does some modeling on this. And that's really the question you guys are trying to answer is, where do we set budget for the next year? So,
And when you talk about budget.
yep.
That's really the premium that the city and IMU are paying,
That
right?
you guys are accruing. You guys are accruing on a regular basis, on a per employee basis as they're going. That is the question that is the purple number. That is not Wellmark's number, that is your number.
And is that factoring in the premium holidays that we have done over the
This
last
number is
few
not.
years?
This number's not. Yep, so we'll get into that. Questions on these two slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you talk about pharmacy rebates?
Yeah, so pharmacy rebates, and I can go back if you want. The pharmacy rebates are derived from the various drugs that people are on. Okay, so I go back to if your entire population is on generic drugs, you will have $0 in pharmacy rebates. The way pharmacy rebates work, so think of Humira. Humira wants people on their plan, on those drugs. They'll also then credit plans. Let's say it's a $100,000 drug, there might be $60,000 that comes back to the plan. When you're self-funded, you get that money. Again, this is not it's kind of a dirty thing. I don't love RX, it's not a great thing, there's not very much transparency. That's the way the world works, is that they're trying to incentivize people to be on the drugs and they'll send the money back to the whoever the plan is. So you guys are self-funded, you get that money. If you're fully insured, Wellmark gets that money, or United Healthcare gets that money. Because you are self-funded, you guys get to get those pharmacy rebate credit. It's a function of the relationship between the drug manufacturer and the PBM, the pharmacy benefit manager that you guys are using.
Is that pretty common across the major manufacturers?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So like Ozempic will have $0 in a pharmacy rebate credit. It's all specialty, major specialty. So again, that's why it depends so much group to group. I mean, that's why we've invested. So to give you an idea, on Holmes Murphy side, I've been working there 18 years. Until about 4 or 5 years ago, we just kind of did this on ourselves. Blah, blah, blah. We have a full pharmacy team with 5 pharmacists on the team now because it's become such a big deal. And it matters so much who the makeup of your people are on your plan. Because again, if you've got 10 people that are all on Stelara and Humira and all this other stuff, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that are coming back to the plan. Versus if you have none of those, it's 0. So it's a big deal.
Right, so I'm just wondering why the inconsistency in numbers. We have 28,000 one month and
They
0.
pay quarterly usually. So first up, they come in quarterly batches. And then this is also this is tailing off from last year because it would have been done essentially these would have been probably filled in June, May of the year now of 25. They're always paid in batches.
That explains it, thank you.
Other questions on those 2 slides? And I can come back to them. Have a pop up. All right, so a couple things in the medical plan design, and then we'll get more into the actual financing of it, because there are a few things we gotta talk about. So if you were here last year, you would know that the IRS dictates how a high deductible health plan is set up. Okay, so they have various things that allow it to be a qualified high deductible health plan. And the major one is the actual deductible and the out-of-pocket maximum. So because we have an embedded plan, the $3,300 that we have today has to move up to $3,400. We have this conversation with all of our clients. Holmes Murphy's, every single person that had a $3,300 last year moves up to a $3,400 next year. Okay, so the recommendation for us is to continue to do that. So then the question then is, and this is where you guys are kind of unique, is the family traditionally would have kind of a 2x number. So, right, so it used to be 3,000, 6,000. We moved it up from 3,000 to, 31 to 32 to 33, now to 34. And the family traditionally was double that number. We've devoted kind of not to increase the family too much. And now the conversation is, do we want to move that family up commensurate or kind of inch it up to more of the doubling of it? And so the kind of option one would be the required 34, 34. And option two is say, hey, let's move that family up as well with it to a $6,400. So this is not actuarially going to make a bit of difference to you guys, really. I mean, it's not going to be pennies in the grand scheme of things, but it would, as we're trying to set the plan up for the future, continue to trend that family up along with it. The IRS will not make you do that because all they care about is a single deductible. But to the extent that you guys want to move it up, our recommendation would be to move up with the family as well. Questions on that slide? Okay. So now into the actual renewal itself. So the administration fees are the top line. Today you guys are paying that $119,630. That is going up to the $123,748. That's a $4,000 increase. That is not unique to the city. That you guys are not special. Wellmark is doing that for everyone. 3% bump across the board for every single person. The specific stop loss is unique to you in some capacity. The way I would describe stop loss, that is obviously the portion that you guys are purchasing. But that is the insurance you're buying, right? So you guys are buying a lot of it. You're betting on yourself, so you're self-insuring the largest percentage of your claims, and you'll see it in the next slide, a little more of that. But you're buying stop loss protection, right? So that stop loss protection, you have two levels of protection. You have an aggregate stop loss and a specific stop loss. The specific stop loss protects you up to the specific deductible that you guys pay for each employee, right? So each employee has a deductible that they have, and then you guys cover everything above that. The aggregate covers the whole company, and I'll show you what those numbers look like in a little bit. The specific stop loss is the most volatile of the market. So think back 2 years ago. You guys had a over $1 million claim. You guys were running a roughly 700% loss ratio. So they lost their tail on you 2 years ago. They did not give you a 700% increase. Okay? They gave you probably 20-some% increase. There's some other company out there right now that probably had a 700% increase. They're not going to give them a 700% increase. They're probably going to give them a 20. Okay, and so Wellmark across the board right now is about a 15% increase on the stop loss. So there are 4 times the $1 million claimants today than there were 10 years ago. I mean, I just dealt with one today. $1 million claimants are on the rise, and stop loss is that level of insurance where $1 million claimants happen, right? They don't happen in the smaller layer; they happen in the bigger layer. And so the 14%, again, Holmes Murphy's job, our job really is to, as the broker, we don't care who you guys work with. We don't care if it's Wellmark or United Healthcare. We don't care who the stop loss is. We want to make sure that's justified, right? That whoever you guys are using as a justified renewal, the 14%, especially given your history, was quite in line with where the market would be for that.
And our stop loss, the specific stop loss limit is
75, right, guys? 75,000. Where are we at for specific? Is it 100? Yeah, it's 100. It's 100. 110, yeah. 100. So everything above 100, you guys take off to stop loss, right? Okay. And then your aggregate is 125% of that. Again, I have a what that looks like here in a second. So when you add all that together, right? So you have your specific stop loss, your aggregate stays the same. You get your fixed cost going up 11.3%, right? So no matter what happens there, that fixed cost is stuck. As I mentioned, the rebate credit's actually increasing. They're going to increase that number up to 110 PEPM, which takes up to the 162. Okay, so that's actually an extra $14,000 back next year to get our annual fixed costs at that 11.9. When you look at the bottom, that breaks down that fixed fee, the PBM fee, all that other stuff. Leverage trend, I said it was 15. 15 is about where Wellmark's at today. The actual leverage trend that they would say from a benchmarking standpoint is at 18. So again, when we look at that, that all checks out pretty well. The next slide is going to show you a bit more on that aggregate side of things. All right, so I mentioned your fixed costs. These are all coming in from that last slide there, the fixed cost. Wellmark gives us expected claims. All right, so I mentioned, remember those purple bars from a few slides ago that I talked about, that's our budget. You don't listen to Wellmark, okay? You guys last year decided, you really listen to Holmes Murphy. We showed you some things, you guys said we're keeping everything the exact same, and there's a reason for that, we'll talk about that. So your budget has held steady the last 3 years. Well, Wellmark is saying, hey, expected claims, and they're doing it again this year, so we're still fighting them on this because I think it's stupid, is going up 5.3%. Okay, they're saying, hey, we think in addition to, today we got you at the 1.8, we actually think it's gonna go 1.95. Okay, that number doesn't really matter to you because if you guys don't have those claims, then it doesn't matter, right? So if you guys have 0 claims, Wellmark saying it's going up $100,000 doesn't really mean anything. Where it does matter is that your aggregate insurance, which is your worst case scenario insurance, is set at 125% of that number, okay? So it does matter to the extent that you're buying aggregate insurance. And if, God forbid, we have the worst year of all time, everyone, you have like, because again, think about it, 2 years ago, you had a negative $700 loss ratio, percent loss ratio on your stop loss. And you still ran at a 90% number to expected. Horrible year, you ran under expected. You would need to go another 25% above to hit an aggregate year. The reason that is because that stop loss protection, which you guys have 100% or $100,000, stops all claims that go up there. So if you have $1 million claimant, well, you're done at 100, right? If you have $2 million claimants, you're done at 200. In order to have an aggregate year, you had to have a whole bunch of people hitting 50, 75, 100, 50, 75, 100, a lot of them. And when you have that, then it can snowball into an aggregate year. You guys haven't touched it. Most people never will ever touch it, but that's why we buy that protection. There's also a reason that protection's only like $10,000. Not very much money. You pay $12,000 for it. I mean, it's a very inexpensive piece of insurance because the chances of you hitting it aren't good. But it does matter on where Wellmark sets that expected. So again, we have the final, we'll get Wellmark's official final numbers back here in the next few weeks. We're gonna press them on that again. We think it's a little high given where you guys have run. Obviously, your last year hasn't helped that, our case in that, because you're up so much year over year. But a couple notes to look at here. PEPM expected cost in 2025 are $12.57. They would estimate out that your cost for 2026 would be the $13.24. If you go to the far right, our budget today, as you saw from a few slides ago, is at $10.95, and the current PEPM is the $12.43. So today you're actually running at $12.43. If you look at where you're actually running, it's below the 2025 number. And so Wellmark's telling you, hey, we think it's going to be this $13.24. I don't think it. I wouldn't raise my stuff 5% personally, based on where they're at. We then added out. We talked about this maximum cost. That $2.347 million. That is derived from the 1.954 above it. Well, you can see here that that actually isn't your worst case scenario, because your worst case scenario theoretically, I mean, is the difference between your current budget and your exposure limit. So you actually have a bigger exposure than it looks like here based on your budget. Does that make sense? So you're budgeting at X. Wellmark's telling you to budget here. You're not, because we have a huge surplus, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And so because you're budgeting underneath Wellmark's expected, you're theoretically budgeting under the 25% corridor. So you have a bigger corridor. And so we're just pointing that out here, that if you guys were to hit an egg year, you're actually, it's a bigger corridor, but that's because you have a giant reserve right now and we're trying to pay that down.
How is that budget number derived?
The budget number has been derived from years of us running well and not ever raising it, essentially.
No, I get that. I wanna know how you're calculating, like, how does that 1,616,000, how is that calculated? Is it the 1095 from above times
So
the 123 employees?
that number is coming from the next page. You'll see the next page where, page 12, you'll see. That was I can get to it in a second. I mean, that number is coming from where you guys budgeted last year, and the year before, and the year before, on a PEPM basis. So we voted every year to not change that number, and we've been taking hacks at every year at premium holidays and at
I guess what I'm getting
HSAs.
at
Yeah.
is that, does that include both the
No, those,
employee
you'll,
budget?
no, you'll see that, we did include the, yeah, you'll see it in a couple slides.
Yeah,
We dive into the, how we're trying to pay down the, well, we're taking a chunk out of it this year with increased, claims.
Can I ask my question?
Yes,
Does that number include both the employer, what the employer is contributing to the insurance fund and what the employee
No.
is contributing?
no, that is the gross cost.
What do you mean by gross cost?
That is the number that, so if here, go to page 12. We'll go right to page 12. So, if you look, use my pointer, pointer's not gonna work, is it? Okay, that number right there, 1.6 million is the total gross cost. You can see the employee contributions underneath that of the 237. The net cost is the 1.3. Again, that's what we're budgeting at today.
Okay, so the 1.3 is the employee.
The employer, that's the, yeah, that is what the employer is
That
budgeting.
answers
to.
my question.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep. Okay. Back to page 9, and then we'll walk through it here in a second. Okay. All right, any other questions on page 9? I can always jump back later if you have.
On the expected claims that
Yes.
Wellmark is gonna come back with that number too, what's the formula for that?
Their underwriter looks at it and says, well, trend 7%, here's how they've run the past. And
Trend across all of the cases or trend across our?
combination of both. So it's an underwriter who spends a lot of time being a total
Yes,
dork.
I get it.
Yeah, looking at your guys' past claims from 2 years ago, your claims from this year, your claims going forward.
Our history.
Oh, yes, this is you guys, plus trend, plus. So there's a whole myriad of factors that they go to. Sometimes they'll hold it, sometimes they'll decrease it. They're trying to give you guys their best guess of where they think it is. But obviously, we're trending well below it, and because you guys have run so well in the past, and we have a big surplus, we've kind of told them, we don't really care about where you're gonna sell us anyway, because we need to pay this, we need to get the.
I get that. I just wanted, when you said they're gonna come back with a number, I just wanted to understand.
That, yeah, so that's enough. Now, can we talk them off it? I don't know, we're gonna try, but, yeah. All right, so page 10, I know I talk fast, so feel free. Slow me down. I have a client of mine who, every once in a while, will just pull time out on me. Say what you said, half the speed. And so if you have call time out, you can call time out. All right. So we mentioned that the decisions we have to make, the government's already made one decision for us. We have to move to the 34. So the recommendation would be then to move to the $6,400. Take a vote right now on that, or how does this work? What do you guys?
Whatever they-
Just get direction.
Yeah, whatever they
Fine,
want
yeah.
to, the direction.
So your goal, or what you recommended on that is eventually get up to 6,800 to double it up.
Well, that's gonna keep going up. Avenge is going to 37. I mean, Avenge is
I
35.
mean, each year, like if we only go up the same amount, we just get.
Yep.
So, right now, going up 6,400, if it doesn't change at all next year, probably recommended going up to 6,600 on the family, but keep and so on until we hit closer to her.
Or we're gonna bend it off and jump up. And we don't have to do this. Again, this is not something we have to do by law. It's just kind of it starts to get kind of funny looking when
pretty
the single
standard
family are the
practice
same.
out there, yeah.
So, more of a schematics thing. I mean, it's kind of just whatever you guys prefer, to be honest.
I personally am fine going with 6,400 now.
Walk through all the decisions and come back then and talk about each of them.
All right, telehealth copay at $25. All right, another change that took place. The Big Beautiful Bill Act, going back to 2020, actually go back to 2003. HSAs are invented. Big part of the HSAs being invented was that you could have no first dollar co-payments except for preventive. That's the rule. Until 2020, emergency exception that they allowed people to finally use telehealth. They said, well, people have COVID, we don't want them going to the doctors, let's let them use telehealth, and it'll still allow them to have an HSA. Everyone kind of had that, like, oh, this is really good, let's keep this. And then they put an emergency stay on it, it would stay for a year, and then the next budget bill, then someone would shove it in, and blah, 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 blah. They've now made it into law forever that you can have an HSA and have telehealth at whatever copay you want, free, $25, whatever you want, first dollar coverage for telehealth. Okay, so today, you would pay, so let's say that visit costs $70, okay? Today, and I'm on an HSA plan, I pay $70 if I want to use a telehealth vendor. Because we have the ability now to do this, there's the kind of the pros and cons that you're weighing is most of my groups say this is a good thing. We should do it if we can, right? If they're in the financial situation you guys are in, they're saying this is a benefit, let's give it to our employees. If you give it to them for free, every time someone goes, you're paying $70, right? Because you are the health plan. So most groups are saying, let's do it, let's set it at an amount that is a benefit to the employee, and encourage them to do telehealth, and it's not gonna bankrupt us if there's people using it all the time. And so the recommendation we had was $25 to add a $25 copayment on for telehealth. It'll encourage telehealth, help bring more awareness to it, and it'll cap their expense at $25.
Joe, that $70 cost that you said, how does that compare to a normal office visit?
Yeah, normal offices, it's gonna be at least $120, right? If you're going in for a normal office visit, it's gonna be $120 after discount for sure. Obviously, when you get into the urgent care situations, you're in the $200 to $400, and if anyone's going to emergency room, it's way more than that, right? So it's a deck chair off the Queen Mary as far as the total cost of things. But again, I'm a huge proponent of it, especially for being on an HSA plan. I got my little kids at home. I love these things, and so I think $25 is a prudent level to have it where it won't have overuse, but it'll encourage people to use it.
How often does the telephone call then lead to going into the office, right? So I call in and it costs us, the copay, and then they say, well,
Yeah.
we actually need to see you. So then it costs us the $120.
Yeah, so not that often. Sometimes they won't even charge you. If you call them up and they don't actually do anything, they'll say, hey, listen, we can't do anything. You should just, they won't even charge you for it. So that happens too, where the vendor itself, if it's a quick, hey, dude, your leg's hanging off, go to the ER, they're not gonna charge you for that, right? And so it's not a misuse thing. I've got a lot of clients who've said, oh, we're scared to even add this, and they add it, it's like 10 people called in. I mean, and you quite frankly want more people to use it. So I've never run into an overuse or a misuse of it.
Can you tell us how many times it was used last year?
Off the top of your head, you got that? We have the data. We have the data. It wasn't a tremendous amount, but it was.
Tremendous versus zero
No, like,
versus
it's
500.
it's closer to zero.
Okay, I just.
Yeah.
Numbers.
Between tremendous and zero, it was more in that area.
Just wherever tremendous is.
But also, you gotta think, on HSA plans, there's always gonna be less because I have to pay it. $70 versus, it's been a copay on traditional plans forever. And yet, on the history of telehealth, going back 7 years ago, we had to partner with separate vendors, right? I mean, totally separate vendors outside of the insurance carrier. And then about 7 years ago, every single insurance carrier added them into the plan. And so they incorporated them in. And so you've seen a steady uptick in them. Here.
It was the generational plan.
Well, we have it, just not in this.
Yeah, not in this
we have
book,
this.
yeah.
Not tremendous, somewhere in the smaller amount, yeah. If you want the exact number, I can get it for you. We have it.
Tremendous is all relative.
Yeah.
So.
All right, last one, this is a lot of words for something that's not super exciting. So essentially, Wellmark has these blue distinction centers all over the state. And so they basically need you to update your language. Today, you have a travel benefit for travel and lodging for services from a blue distinction center from more than 100 miles from home. The annual benefit maximum is a $10,000 per transplant coverage. Okay? So this is all for transplants at these various blue distinction centers. Option one can keep it in place with updates to the current contract language, which would include changing the limit to 150 miles and would add a $200 per diem up to an annual limit of $10,000. Option two would remove the travel benefit altogether, as there's been no utilization in the last 5 years. And chances are no one will really use this because there's blue distinction centers everywhere. And so Wellmark's kind of saying it isn't really a big issue. We're just trying to either get rid of the language completely or update it to this other thing where it would change the limit from 100 to 150 miles and add the $200 per diem. Again, being in Indianola, everyone's probably going to, if they're having anything done, is it going to Des Moines or whatever it is? It's like, it probably doesn't apply to you guys, but Most people are removing it, it's kind of unnecessary in Des Moines, but you guys can do whatever you want. We have there's no skin in the
The
game.
transplant wouldn't include Iowa City, Mayo.
It would, but again, those are blue distinction centers, like Mayo is probably, I don't know if they're gonna be included in this one or not, but Iowa City, Des Moines, any of those places are all gonna be included in it, so. I can get you more.
You just hear more people traveling out for major types of transplants where they go to more specialty rather
Yep.
than just Des Moines.
Yep, so again, this is, you can have it in there. They're saying it happens so infrequently that they're not gonna change your rates, they're not gonna change your expected costs. But the old language you have, they won't keep anymore, because that would be a different language than they have uniformly.
It's
So,
not going to,
you think
it's not going to update, increase our rates to keep it.
Obviously, if somebody
You don't
uses
leave
it
it.
at some point, then you'd pay for it, right? But like, they're
I
not,
think what they're trying to do is just update the language, it's not the use of it, from what I understand.
yeah,
you're
they're
saying.
not, they're saying we don't expect anyone to use this anyway,
We're just getting
so.
consistent
Yeah.
language,
Right.
we'll remove it.
to move to consistent language.
Well, what I mean, option one is to keep it and update the language. Option two is to remove the benefit.
Correct.
So if we haven't had anyone use it,
We haven't had anybody use it, but then we've got the next person right after the new year coming in and wanting to use it.
right,
Yeah, to me, there's no advantage to removing it, so why would?
right.
Other discussions on one or two? You guys wanna have now, but we can. All right, so I'll try to go through this succinctly, because it's, I mean, you guys are in a unique situation where some people this matters a lot. For you guys, it's like, we'll show you it, we'll show you how we do our numbers. It's like, yeah, but we got a huge surplus, so maybe we look at something different. All right, so the way this works, the past coverage levels, we take the purple line as you guys. That is your rolling 12 PEPM. So rolling 12 over 3 years, so theoretically 4 years of data on an aggregate average basis for this medical claims for 12 months, okay? We then take the kind of regressed trend line there of the P green, which is saying you guys over this last 5 years have been up 5.1%, which again, that is pretty darn good compared to where everyone else is at. But then we take your most recent rolling 12, and that's actually at the 24%, okay? So you've obviously gone hot, as we just saw multiple times now. You've been hot the last 24 months, or the last 12 months. So we're at about a 24% over the last 12 months. The top right one flattens all that out and says, all right, where are we at then today compared to our past coverage level? We're saying, well, actually, you're right around the 50th. The 50th past coverage level would be 706. You're at 708. So you're right in line with the 50th. So we're saying 50% of the time you'd be right at it. 50% of the time you'd be below, whatever it is, right in there. You're right in line. Not too high, not too low. Totally different story on pharmacy. As I mentioned last time, last year you had 0 pharmacy claims of any note for the most part. You were super consistent. Your trend line for pharmacy is 9% over the last 3 years, but we've gone up 82% in the last rolling 12. To the point where today we're at that 205. And 205 is way above the 75th past coverage level, which is at 172. And we would say the 50th is closer to that 159. All that's doing is saying, hey, where are we at from a budgetary standpoint compared to where we've been in the past, and how is that trending forward? We're just trying to get you guys to understand where our underwriters are thinking you're gonna be, okay? Gives you another look over as Wellmark saying 5%, here's Wellmark's look at it. So when we move this forward then into our actual budget model tool, we would say on the left-hand side there, as we pointed to already, this is based on the 122 average head count. Again, this might vary a little bit from the data previous, because that's more of a rolling 12 head count. This is our today at a point in time average head count of 12. The PEPM gross cost of 1104, our contributions of the 162 gets us to that 942. Annual gross cost then of the 1.6 million, less employee contributions of the 237 to get to the 1.3. when we reforecast it, so Holmes Murphy say, hey, we're gonna reforecast this, given how you're running this year, at the past coverage levels of the 50th and 75th, which is where we're at on the top, you're at 50th for medical, you're above the 75th for pharmacy, we would say, hey, you're gonna come in right, over budget by about 5%.
Sorry, can I interrupt you for just a
Yeah,
minute?
absolutely.
You're on the next slide, right?
I am. How's
For
that?
the people at home.
You're
Thank you.
good. They were very confused, thank you. $78,000 is where we think you'll end this year, under budget, okay? When we then shoot that forward to next year, we would say, hey, listen, we think when we roll this forward, let's take that, 1.6 million and go to the 1.836. That's where we think next year's gross costs will be. And that is at us trying to be as kind of as aggressive we can be, going down to the 25th percentile. We're saying, hey, if you guys budget as low as you possibly can, we think it'd be a roughly $200,000 increase over the cost of this year. Okay. So there's a few other ways to look at it. That would be the 1.8 is at the 50th and 75th. When we move it to the 25th and the 25th, and getting more conservative, is 1.675. All that to say, as we talked about trying to spend down the reserve, you guys are in this advantageous place where you have a $2+ million reserve. And so, yes, you're at the 1.6 today. If you were trying to stick with inflation, if you were trying to budget where we think you're supposed to be, we would say, hey, go up to the 1.8. But given how well you guys have run in the past and how much money you have in reserve, you could just keep again, this is why we kind of get back to how are we budgeting. Like, you could just keep it at the 1.6 and not worry about increasing it, because you do need to spend down this reserve a little bit.
What's important on this page is the 220,000. The fact that our expected costs are gonna go up 220,000, which is gonna be part of the conversation I think we're gonna have a little bit in terms of where the reserve fund is at.
Yes.
So keep that in mind.
Yep.
Can I just, we have average head count on there and it went up. If that does not go up, say it went down, does that affect anything?
Well, I mean, so all.
To the, costs that we need to be addressing?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, the aggregate number will go up or down depending on that, right?
Like the cost per employee?
This is all done on a per employee. So like
Got it.
every time we're budgeting, it's all done on a belly button per head thing. So that can change. We're trying to figure out for everybody you hire and there's a family coverage, how much do we need to pull out for them?
Got it.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
Thank you.
There we go. So this is not in your sheet. This was printed too early before we got this. This gives you the idea of the health insurance fund. I always say this in the meetings with them, like, how many of you guys were here 10 years ago? It was like in the red, bleeding, very bad, and like we don't have any money. Were you here 10 years ago?
So there was
It was a little scarier time. We didn't get
Chris,
to,
I so much.
this is like Scrooge McDuck getting to like see how much gold he has. It wasn't that way back in the day. So my point of this is it's just kind of a fun conversation to have because we don't get to do this all the time. So your ending balance in 22 was 2.6. It went up to 3 in 23, 2.8 again in 24, 2.5 in 25, 2.1 in 26. The number that we would recommend, quote unquote, I mean, you want to have at least $600,000 based on the amount of accrual that you have. You want to have roughly 3 to 6 months, depending on how conservative or aggressive you want to be. So you're obviously way north of that, okay? And we've done some very cool things, right? HSA contributions, premium holidays, things. We haven't raised employee rates in forever. And so we've been doing really awesome things. And it's also allowed you guys continuity of getting to these meetings, having 30% increase in usage this year and still being like, we could probably keep our stuff the same. But the conversation is, where do you guys want to set budget? And so you're at roughly $2 million today. We're seeing it, as you just pointed out, an increase next year of probably a couple $100,000. We're under budget by that today. This is the question you guys are answering is, where do you want to set our budget for next year? And this all plays into that.
Can I touch on this too? One of the questions too was like, how do our premiums for the departments and employees compare to what we're actually spending? And Joe kind of touched on that at the very beginning too. Like, we're collecting more from the department's employees than what we're actually ending up having to pay in insurance premiums every single year. And so that's why it's not, even with the health insurance premium holidays, that's why it's not going down as much as we would anticipate, so. Even for FY 27, we'll still get more premiums than we will our expected expenses in insurance.
Why did the employee premiums almost double?
Huh?
The bottom number down there, from under FY 25 ending balance employee premiums is 126. Projected FY 26 ending premiums is 246. Why'd that almost double?
He's saying, why is this number, like, this thing won't work. Why is this number and this number, are these so different?
Premium holidays. Yeah, premium holidays.
Okay. So that would be without premium holidays, the 246.
Yeah, you're assuming no premium holidays.
Yeah, in this scenario, we have another.
But we were only doing about a quarter. That still doubled, almost. Just curious.
About 138,000.
Is what our.
138,700 is what a premium holiday does, yeah.
Are you
And
still
some of
assuming
those
one?
things, huh?
Both sides.
Yeah, but you're still assuming one premium holiday, right?
Not in this one.
Not in this one, okay.
But last year.
Last year we
it
had
was
3.
4.
Well, in FY 25,
We did 3. It wasn't quarterly. It
26, we
was.
have 3.
I think we only did.
Yeah, we did 3.
November, December, and January.
Still trying to do my math on how 3 holidays pulls almost half. Like, that's just my math, is 1/3, or like 1/4, that is not 1/4.
The employee premiums is just the city part, because IMU's payments were receipted in under the IMU and then the city employer part.
Say that again, Jackie.
The way the IMU's money is receipted in is under with the city's employer premiums. And I've asked staff to change that going forward, so we have a true look at what the actual employee premiums are and the employer side of the premiums, so that they're not lumped together for IMU's portion.
So it's
So
not
is-
one for
is that
one
right?
from
Is
the.
that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So this 246 is a mix of
Yeah.
city and, but this is just the city.
Yes, I believe so. I'd have to pull the report again,
Could be the discrepancy.
That would make more sense than that, it's
Yeah.
much bigger.
because I want them to fix it going
Okay.
forward.
And Jackie, just to make sure I understand your assumptions here, so. So for fiscal 27,
Uh-huh.
you took the estimated claims from Walmart.
When we sat down and talked about it, we decided, of the 5 of us, we decided to take the 1.597 cost is what we would pay for the insurance claims for the year.
Which is relative to the 220.
Right, 220 over.
And then for the premiums coming in, would you leave the premiums flat?
Yep. Yeah, we assumed that we wouldn't have any rate changes for that. And we also assumed that the HSA contributions would stay the same.
Employer premiums in Cobra?
Employer and employee premiums is almost a $500,000 difference. And so if we take 1/3, okay. Hey, maybe that starts.
I don't wanna speak on behalf of everybody here, but Jackie, thank you for doing this, cause this was actually kind of at my request. And I find this very helpful to show the past history and kind of see where we've been with this reserve. And to know that we were up over 3 million at one point, and we have come back down, but this group has discussed that this reserve is really still too high. We've discussed about, you know, I would argue, you know, your approach of 6 months claims, I would say is one approach. And I think that's what the policy is of the city. I think we discussed a year ago that I would actually suggest that it should be more of a, what I would refer to as a risk-based approach. That it's really, what's the difference between your expected maximum amount and what the expected claims are gonna be, which on one of these slides is like a difference of about $400,000.
Yeah, page 9.
Page 9, the difference between the 2,347,000 and the 1,954,000. I don't necessarily disagree with, you know, with the
You're saying that you think the reserve should be 400,000?
or I would argue 400,000 or double that. You could say, okay, you know, that's 1 year's risk based, and should you have 2 years worth of that? So 800,000. So what you know, 600,000, 800,000. That's not too far off.
There's no right answer. It's a philosophy.
Right. Yeah, it's a philosophy, exactly. And the only thing I would add to that is the philosophy of looking at 6 months claims is sort of looking backwards. And this risk-based approach is looking kind of more future-based, looking to the future and what your risk is in the future. So again, but I agree, it's a philosophy, so.
Joe, can I ask a question on that too? So if I understand correctly, in one of the slides, I think you said our maximum exposure is that 730, 740 number? That was one of the numbers you had.
Oh, that's just compared to your budget today.
Right. So is that the most that we could be underwater? Is that kind of how to interpret that?
Well, if you're gonna keep budgeting at 1.6, you would take, and you hit your absolute max,
Yeah.
you guys would be under budget that year for 731, which is just eat out of the 2 million.
And it's not factoring what's already in the reserve too.
Right, so I'm wondering, is that a reasonable number to use as a reserve target?
731. But again, that still fluctuates. I don't think that's kind of even less of a math thing there, because your current budget is
Yeah.
kind of just a floating number that we've held forever. The question is, what are you guys comfortable with? I have some people who do 3 months of reserve. They're they don't care, they're like, whatever. I have some people who don't even do budgeting. Like, they don't even do this. Like, whatever claims come in, we'll pay them. So it's all a philosophy on how you guys, are we really risk averse? We want to make sure we have money for the future, or they're like, hey, we want to pay this down. We don't want to keep all this bloated budget. So that's kind of the discussion.
I think Adam's, to point, kind of just a little support of Adam's point, because I think, you know, in prior years, we've discussed this. You know, it's 700 now, but that's because we're trying to spend down and do more. As you look at long-term and normalized, like as a policy, like what'll be good 10 years from now, we will be closer to the, you know, to Wellmark's numbers. And so that gap will, it's big now, but it's only big because we're trying to spend down money. But over time, it'll normalize to what this year is that $400,000 number, which I think is a good way to look at it long-term, is, you know, based upon that 400, you know, a factor or a multiple of that 400. Because by the time we get out there and our reserves are down there, we will be charging premiums that are approximately what Wellmark's recommending and getting claims that are approximately. So, you know, again, there's
So right now,
certainly what the answer is and what a good number is for this year in a bucket, but I think Adam's like 2 times multiple of that 400 is probably a good long-term vision.
And I don't want to cut off discussion, but just to keep us kind of moving forward here, and I'm sorry to kind of take over here, but I'm pretty familiar with this stuff. So if we're projecting, Jackie's projecting to be I think it's 2,160,000 at the end of this year, which is a good drop from last year. So in other words, that indicates to me that the premium holidays that this group agreed to do last year made some progress for us, which I think is good. But then looking at the projection for fiscal '27, even with the expected $220,000 of increased costs, we're only projected to drop, what is that, $90,000 roughly in our balance.
That does not include any projected holidays at this point, so
Exactly.
we could still
Yeah.
even,
Yeah, so I think we have some flexibility to consider, would be my conclusion from this.
And what are all of our options for spending down or reducing the amount in that account?
You got a bunch of them. You could accrue less, I mean, you could keep doing that. You could charge the employees less theoretically. But the problem is then eventually you're gonna have to ask for more. So you have this delicate balance between you guys have this really good thing right now that you haven't had to ask employees for more. In fact, you're giving them discounts every year. The premium holiday and money in the HSAs are usually the easiest and best ways to do it, because then you're giving employees money in their hands immediately. Those are usually the best things to do. And so it's a level of the accruing is, are we gonna lower the amount that employees are paying? I mean, that's kind of a dangerous slope. Most people don't like doing that, especially where you guys are at. You have a really good plan, it's affordable, you're like, it's all really good, you know, so at this point, what you're doing is advantageous for sure in how you're doing it.
In my view, the reducing the premium really would have been the right way to do this, but that would have been the right decision back in 22, 23. And I don't think that's probably the right decision now.
I have a
All
question.
the price increases.
God speaking.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Yeah. And this may be a stupid question, just being new, but do you know how much is being contributed to HSA right now? Is there any employer contribution that is given? I see the 120. Is that over all full-time, part-time?
Yep, so the departments contribute $1,200 a year and the HSA account contributes $1,400 a year
Per person.
per person.
Per person?
That's
Oh,
enrolled.
that's dang. Okay. Whew, good.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really great. I wish I got that.
I know, right? I was like, ooh, okay.
You gonna step down and apply for a job, Tiffany?
I know, right? Man, some good math. All right.
Other questions on this slide?
Can I go
This
back
one's
and
one of mine too, it's just a
ask a
pretty
follow-up
graph.
question?
Yeah.
Does part of the reserve, the amount in the reserve, it's fed by our levy, right?
For the general fund, yes.
Employee benefit levy.
For, yeah,
The employee benefit levy is feeding into there?
from the departments, yeah.
So one of our options could be to lower what we're dumping in there from the benefit levy?
Which we did, like, we did that for this year, knowing that we were gonna have the premium holidays, we reduced the amount coming in. And reduced the amount of the benefit levy in return for that. No, the benefit levy goes to the department and then it transfers to the reserve, or to the health insurance fund, each payroll.
So if I understand it correctly, so the employee benefit levy is what makes up the department's contribution to the health insurance, and then, so it doesn't go directly to the trust fund, it goes towards how we pay for it. So if we were to reduce what the city pays towards the premiums, then that would lower the benefit levy, which could then reduce the reserve, because we'd have to go in further into the reserve to make up the lower budget dollar.
So by doing the holidays though, it's a benefit to the employee and the city and IMU.
Correct.
So it sounds like employee holidays are pretty much one of our only avenues really then to draw down this reserve balance?
And the HSA contribution, which we're already doing.
But the premium holidays benefit, not, the HSA is the benefits kind of limited to the employee, with the premium holidays, both the department heads, or department side and the employees benefit. So there's the difference between the HSA is and the premium holiday is everyone benefits with the premium holiday.
And Jackie, I think if I remember it, that number is 140,000 per premium holiday, correct?
Yes. What did I say?
38.
717.
So I think if, simple math, if you just, for every premium holiday you would give or could give, you would just basically deduct 138,000 from that 2 million.
Yep. There's a slide in here later that shows that now too.
So if we did 3 again, you know, you're looking at 414,000, and then plus our additional $200,000 of additional costs coming for this year, right?
That's already factored in.
That's already factored
So
in.
it'd just be about 1.6.
Okay.
The idea is that it's just less painful to up premiums later, do holidays.
So if we do holidays, we don't lower the premiums. So everything stays the same. The holidays are kind of like a mental bonus, I guess is how I kind of look
A
at it.
lot harder to tell someone, hey, you owe us more money next year for
Yeah, so
Give 'em
it's easier to keep bringing it down, and then eventually when we hit around a spot where we want to balance that, we can slowly increase the premiums rather than a hard hit.
Yeah, so looking at it a whole year, it is basically a premium reduction.
It is, but it's also kind of feels like a
Advantageous to those
bonus.
people who are employed November, December.
Right. They get extra on their check during the holidays.
We did those all at once last year, right? One quarter rather, yeah.
What were those months, Courtney?
November, December, and January.
And the department's got holidays as well.
Yes.
I would be supportive of doing that again this year.
Is
Everyone in support of that?
Yeah, it's working.
Tiffany?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Insurance
jump
makes my
to
brain go
decisions
forward,
here.
so.
All right, so we have some decisions to come to then on page 10.
I'll talk through real quick. Let me talk to the first one here, the specific stop loss. We went out to market for you guys on the stop loss on page 13. The decisions were probably made on this slide, right? This is probably, kind of summarizes it. The specific stop loss level, today you're at the 100,000. We quoted the 110 and the 120. There was not enough savings, so our actuarial team went through, page 13 I'm looking at the bottom, page 13 is. Actuarial team went through and our recommendation would be to stay at the 100,000. There was not enough savings based on the makeup of your claims to justify going up. So our recommendation is to stay at the 100,000. There's no reason to look at that. On the medical side of things, we talked about the accruals. This is the conversation we were just having today. You're at that 1,104 PEPM. Our models would say, hey, if you're being really conservative, you can move it up 2.8% at the 1135, or you could jump it up to where you're actually running today at the 1244, or you option one, which is keep it flat. And so that's kind of the bigger decision you guys have, is what you guys want to do with that. Then we have the employee contributions decision. Today they're paying 17% of that total premium. The recommendation was to keep that flat as well. And then it's the decisions on the premium holiday and the HSA contribution. So this kind of summarizes what we're talking about on the medical side.
Go to the next slide. These are just the different options if you did 1, 2, or 3, or no premium holidays for FY '27, what the fund balance would be. When the us 5 had talked last week, we thought about recommending just one holiday, but happy to do whatever is directed.
Are these, sorry, are these holidays, are they like a floating holiday, or is that a holiday that's the same day set for everybody type of thing?
No, it just means a premium holiday, so that entire month, the departments and the employees will not have to pay health insurance costs.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's not a day off or anything like that, it's just,
Unfortunately.
they don't pay the insurance.
I just wondered with the, like, if it was a floating type of thing where you know, there's other benefits, but it's just you don't pay your premium that's set, right?
Correct, yep.
Correct, you
Yep.
get a
It's not,
holiday from it.
it's not, sorry, I should reword that. It's not a set amount, it's the premium that you pay. You would not pay that. So it could be different amounts for
Correct,
everybody.
yep. Yes, yep,
Okay.
yep, depending on which tier they have. Mhm.
Okay.
So if I'm looking at this, the fiscal year 27, one holiday recommended, which draws down the reserve balance to 1.9. Instead of doing a second or a third holiday and drawing it down even more, why staff, what's the concern with drawing it down faster than that, I guess?
We're just conservative.
I think we're just being conservative is kind of the answer to it, and give the city council and the board of trustees a little bit more flexibility if you want to draw it down at a faster rate. And of course, we are staff paying these premiums, so it does, if we are recommending more premium holidays, you know, ultimately, like we're being a little bit self-serving. So we started off conservative and give more latitude to the council and the board to decide if you want to go further than that.
What was budgeted for? So none was budgeted, so bringing those down is, okay.
Yeah, and ultimately, the other thing we talked about a little bit is, you know, we have this habit of, you know, one-time contributions to the HSA that have been done 7 years in a row now.
One time each though.
Yeah.
Where's one time?
Just one time.
One time.
You know, we said last year, you know, one-time premium holidays, and then we're gonna be following that up again with the same. So, you know, just a little balance of that consideration. Like, you know, there is a little bit of,
Habit that they serve.
yeah, do we want to create the wrong habit or the wrong perception? Or, you know, if you always do it, is it truly one time?
And I guess I do want to go back and revisit the tax levy discussion, because I want to make sure that we don't have the option to lower our levy to decrease the feed into this account and give our taxpayers a reprieve a little bit.
We do, so like for this year, I knew that we were gonna do the 3 holidays. So I lowered the amount that we asked for in the employee benefit levy by those 3 holidays for all the general fund employees. And so if we're directed, however many holidays we're directed to do this year, I will reduce the premium amount accordingly. So the employee benefit levy would go down, like it did last year.
And you could reduce the benefit levy further if you wanted to budget less, right? So I think that 1.6, that's a combination of IMU and the city, is that right? What we budget total? Is
For
that-
the expense,
Yeah,
on the
the
expense
1
side,
yeah, the
yeah,
1.6.
but that's not the premium side. We're not changing the premiums that the departments pay.
So we
So
would,
that's the revenue part.
so we could you could reduce that, you would take in less money, so you would have less money to expend, and you would spend down more of the reserve. But you'd probably burn through that reserve pretty quickly, would be my
You'd have to do it for all
understanding.
departments, yeah.
Do you know
And
how
then that
much?
would have to go back up at some point again, which, again, kind of that mental thought of, don't drop it down and then bump it up with them.
Yeah.
It's better to give that holiday and see it started, and we just always, the reason why we do it every single year as a vote is so that it hopefully filters its way down, that there's a reason why we're doing this, and it may feel habitual, but it's not intended to be. So please.
The other thing I would add to that is IMU would have contributed to that reserve, so I have an issue with spending that down without IMU being able to benefit from that too.
And I wouldn't want to drop it drastically. Any little bit helps. Just a thought.
So what's everyone's choice here on this one?
Do we wanna look at, I think it was Lori that earlier said, do we wanna go through all the decisions, then come back and everyone, or are we
I
pretty
would
good
pause,
at
you're
this?
basically there, dental's, I would say this is
Dental,
basically where you
vision,
want
all
to,
those
you want
other
to
ones
pause there.
don't seem,
Yeah.
anything.
You're pretty good here, this is kind of,
So do we wanna start back at the very beginning and
Right
jump
here.
through?
10.
Think, yep.
back to page, there we go, all right.
So family deductible out of pocket maximum. What's everyone's choice here? Either stay at the current 62 or go up to the recommended 64?
Recommended.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Alright, seems to be consensus on recommended 64.
Increase it gradually versus.
Next one, telehealth at 25 copay, current deductibles apply, or the option of the OBB Act allows plans to be amended to make this change.
Current applies, 25.
25?
Correct.
25, okay.
Is there a way to do a promotion campaign to get employees to do, to
Absolutely.
use this?
Yep, we talked about that.
Education.
It's super easy.
I love it,
I know,
I love it.
especially if you have a cold and you don't wanna go into the doctor.
Me too. So the next one's retain or remove the travel benefits. I think Adam stated it well, that there was no benefit to really removing it.
Agreed. So option one is the,
You upgrade, you update the language.
Just update
Yeah.
the language.
Just update the language, yep.
Page 13.
Yeah, page 13, specific stop loss levels. See, the current's 100,000, option one would be 110, option two, 120.
So you leave it at 100?
agreed.
Agreed.
Seems to be consensus at leaving it at 100. And then the next one, 2026, 2027 medical accrual. Keep it flat. All right, seems to be consensus on keeping it flat. Employee contributions, current is employees pay 17, recommended keeping employees flat rate. Flat.
Agreed.
And then reserve balance, see, we can pay down with premium holidays. HSA contributions, leaving at 26, 100 per period. I think everyone's probably in favor of premium holidays again in order to bring that down.
Yeah.
What do we, guess what's everyone's choice of doing 3 again?
I'd say 3. And the same months, just, cause that helps with payroll as well, right?
I thought so.
Yes.
Did it work for you guys?
I would defer to staff on which months, but.
Yeah, I think December's nice because of the holiday, and keeping 3 contiguous months means we don't have to go in, make changes to payroll and get back out, every other, so, when they're, pick your favorite 3, but as long as they're bunched together, it's probably easier.
November, December, January, kind of would be nice.
So 3 holidays and doing November, December, and January seems to be what is recommended.
Keeping the same HSA contributions.
Yeah. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
And I think the dental and vision,
Yeah, just real quick on the dental, you guys are running very hot on that. You actually had a maximum increase. They had a rate guarantee is no more than 90%, and they ran you right after that. We still look outside and said, hey, I know you're running hot. Let's see if Delta Dental take a look at it. And they said we would for 23%. So again, our recommendation is let's stick with it for the 9%. If that 9% with Mutual ends up getting us closer to Delta at some point, we might just self-fund it with Delta in the future, but we're not there yet. So. And then same thing with Vision, you had it with Delta Vision, and that is That is renew as is, because it's staying the same as well. Same thing with life, short-term disability and long-term disability. Mutual Omaha continues to do well with us, and the pricing is remaining the same. So our recommendation on all three of those lines was to renew as is.
So then really the only decision we have then is with the Delta, as far as the, either renew with Mutual of Omaha or
Do
go
the
with Delta.
23%, yeah. 9% I'll take.
Yeah. Okay. Staying with Mutual of Omaha. Any other decisions that are needed?
You guys.
Directions?
Try to negotiate that rate.
Anything else from you guys?
Is there any
Thank you.
conversation on revisiting the reserve kind of target? I think the policy in the city, you guys can direct me on what it is, but it's,
It's in the council policy.
yeah, but it's 6 months.
Yeah, it's 24-month window, prorated down to 6 months.
And I don't know if there's discussion among city council on whether that's the right policy or.
You were recommending 1
Yeah,
year.
what I recommended and not what I have to say. Right, but whether there's discussion on a different.
So you want us to have conversations and work on a different policy?
Just a suggestion. Yeah.
Okay.
And not even suggesting that has to happen tonight, but something for.
Is that a policy you have in writing? Yeah. Okay, it is in your writing, okay.
So at the end of our council meeting, we have future agenda items that we can bring over and have just joint staff, so we can talk about that then. All right.
We're updating a bunch of policies. So.
What was it before that?
Well, I think that is it for number 3 as far as discussion and direction regarding health insurance. I thank you, Joe, for your time.
Hey, Councilmember Delby, since we do have a quorum of both sides, I think it would be good to make a motion to approve that slate and have everyone vote on it, just to memorialize it.
As far as.
Just all the decisions, just kind of, you can just do it as one slate, make a motion to solidify all of those, recommendations, and then take a vote on it, and that way we've got it, for the record.
All right, so do I have a,
So moved.
do I have a motion to set forth the recommendations that IMU and then the city council had directed for Holmes Murphy?
Second.
Don had it.
Thanks. Jackie, do we need to call roll on this?
Sure. We don't usually do this.
We should probably do 2 separate ones, one from the city council and one from the board of trustees, so that you've got it for both entities.
True.
Sounds good.
So moved.
I was gonna say, so moved on.
Second. Jackie, you'll take roll call for both?
You can just start with me, Jackie, if you want.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Delby,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Sones,
Aye.
Lane.
Aye.
Smith is not here, she left.
Don,
Yes.
Smith left, White,
Yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
Raven.
Yes.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 4, discussion and direction regarding credit card fees. Who is taking the lead on this one?
Okay, I guess I am. I can give just a quick overview. As we've gone through our budget process on the city side, one of the things that we've really worked through on the general fund is to start passing along our credit card fees to the users. We've done that in a couple of different ways because we have a few different systems at play. On the Parks and Rec side, they account for that within the fees that they're setting. For most of the other side of things, just because their software is a little bit different, we actually have the ability to go ahead and pass along, I believe by toggling a switch, right, Jackie? We can toggle through our payment processing system to push that to the consumer. So we've been able to do that. We do recognize, though, on the city side that a good chunk of the credit card fees that we're paying are actually on the utility billing side, that we're going ahead and paying to IMU as they're doing cost recovery and such on that side of things. So we've done some analysis on that. We've had a couple of conversations with Chris and Michelle just to understand, and as well as our legal team, to see if there is the ability to do that. On the legal side, or on the utility side, it's a little bit convoluted. There's different terms out there, whether it's a convenience fee or a surcharge. From what we understand at this point, there is a possibility to do that. I can't remember off the top of my head if it's a convenience fee or surcharge that has to be called, and certainly Chris and Michelle would have more information on that. We did just do some quick analysis in advance of this meeting. I believe it was FY '23. The city paid about $27,000 in credit card fees. We saw that go up to about $43,000 last year, and then we were actually already over about $47,000 this year just on the utility side. So as we've really gone through our budget with a fine-tooth comb, we saw that credit card fees were an opportunity for us to pass those expenses along to the individual user, as opposed to subsidizing them generally through our other revenue sources. So we brought that forward as a consideration to see if on the utility side, we could go ahead and push those credit card fees onto the user as well.
Chris, would you mind coming up and just sharing a little bit of additional information about
Administrative.
yeah, the administrative side of credit card fees and how, what it would take to, institute a fee, and you don't need to get into the details of the technical side of it, but yeah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think the big, first and foremost, we can't pick and choose. So, this can't be a situation where the city wants to pass along those credit card fees and the board of trustees want to keep it. So this does need to be a joint decision. We can, it's maybe not as easy as flipping a switch, but we are able to, set or our recommendation would be to set a flat fee that we charge that.
And when you say a flat fee, a percentage fee, right?
Sorry, yeah, a level percentage fee. Because those credit card fees that we pay do start at 0.7%, and then for some cards it's well over 3.25. So there's no good way to say, hey, you're using a XYZ card, so we're going to charge you 0.7, and you're using one of these other ones, so you're going to get charged 3. We're going to have to it's going to be an imperfect way to do it, but we're going to have to kind of pick something in the center and split the baby and say, the average is 2%, and that's what we'll pass on. Our software does have the ability to do it. Our customers really have become accustomed to it. I think about 1,000 customers pay on credit cards currently. We got another 1,000 that are on ACH, and then the rest are kind of vary between month to month. And so, as we approach this decision, first and foremost, it kind of needs to be all for one and one for all, everyone happy with the decision that we've made. And as we look to get out the messaging, if we do choose to pass along this credit card, I would hope that both the council and the trustees that, we'll kind of take joint ownership of this decision. We'll advertise it. I think, a individual mailing is probably appropriate, and we can send that to all the card holders, and we can segment out everyone that, how they pay and what they pay, items like that,
If we come up with deciding to do this, we need to set the rate now, or we pass along and say, take your best guess as to what overall the rate is? Like, call it 2.1 here, or leave it up to someone else?
I would say the decision just needs to be passed on. I think there's a little bit of details, and, Michelle's done a good job analyzing lots of it, but I mean, the answer is it varies. And what we haven't dug down into, has that shifted over time, or is it, we have lots of individual months where, that 2% starts to get repeatable, but I'd hate to commit to 2%, if, 2 years ago was actually, 1.5 and it's moved up to 2.
Everybody signs up for a 3% card all of a sudden.
Yeah, stuff like that, if the card mix has changed. So there's still, we don't have all the perfect information. We do know we can do it. You know, I do know that it's probably gonna float around that 2%. It might be, 1.9, it might be 2.1. You know, so I wouldn't want to say, let's commit to a particular number yet. But we can get there.
If we passed it on, how often would the customers see that change?
Every usage.
Time they paid.
Once per year or once per month, you change that percentage?
He's talking about the rate.
Oh,
Do you have to pay by credit card then?
No, you wouldn't have to pay by credit card. You can do ACH and it,
I was gonna
ACH
ask,
would be free.
I was gonna ask Chris that question too. I want him to talk about that.
Yeah, certainly, and the way to avoid it is if everyone went out and changed to ACH.
Paying by mail is still free too, right?
Yeah,
Except
paying
for
by
scan.
mail is still free. I mean, we do, the caveat there, I mean, if I could wave a magic wand and have everyone pay ACH, that'd be great. Because it is a lot of work for our CSRs, like the pay by mail is a lot of manual effort. And so I don't wanna, be dismissive of that. As we move to credit cards, one of the primary reasons we've done that before is for ease and to make it easier for customers to pay electronically. The one caveat to that, ACH concept is I know I'm probably the worst guilty about this, but I never actually open my utility bill. I kind of know what it's going to be. And if a particular month I had a running toilet, it would be a huge surprise to me. And for everyone's benefit or detriment, a running toilet can use 15,000 gallons of water. It's not unusual to increase your bill $500. The only downside to moving straight to ACH, one nice concept, I'm paying by credit card. I can go, oh my gosh, that was unexpected. And I'm maybe have the option to pay over a couple of months. If I wasn't paying attention, had an ACH, I'd probably get surprised what came out if you had a running toilet. And certainly, I use running toilet as an example because that's it conceptually, like, it's certainly not our fault that, a customer had a running toilet. It's not necessarily their fault. Maybe they could have done a little more maintenance, but it's just one of those, like, nobody wanted it to happen, but it happened, and it means your bill went up pretty significantly. That is the word of caution I have to say ACH is a solution, for everyone's woes. But as we approach that, ACH is great. It's still no maintenance, or, customers don't have to write out checks. It's all handled behind the scenes.
Anyway, to go back to, because I don't know that I got an answer, if we float the rate to whatever, how often might that change?
I would say we would look at it at least every year, with the other fees, and you guys will, at our next budget meeting, pass the schedule of fees. That probably will come, as a recommendation. We'll make our best guess and best effort. I know one, consideration Adam had is he thought it was important if we did pass along a credit card fee that it neither cost the utility money or be a profit center, that, we wouldn't want our average of 2% and just set it at 3% to be safe. Adam wanted to match that as closely, with the caveat that some people are going to win and some people are going to lose, but it'll be a much narrower bracket. We'd make our best effort, best guess in year one, and obviously if the facts and circumstances change for year two, we wouldn't want it to be a cost or a burden. We'd adjust it to what it actually is.
Can you also talk about, Chris, the other thing you and I talked about is how we would go about implementing this and how we would communicate this? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is a big departure from 20 years that we've been doing it this way. I do think communicating it is important. One of those steps would be a mailing to everyone that's currently using a credit card. I know not everyone will see it, but that's probably our best try at getting everyone, making an individual mailing. That does cost about 600, $500 to $600, $550 to $600 to send out a mailing like that between postage and printing and envelopes and everything. You know, so a limited cost, but we do want to make sure we give everyone the opportunity, might not listen to council or trustee meetings, to know that this is going to happen. We certainly would want help and support from the city on their social media channels and where people might find out stuff there that, you know, that this change happened, and we'll do the same on our side. We will include bill messaging, but I do think as a foundation that individual mailing, just to get it in front of everyone's face. I know, you know, certainly there will be people that get surprised when this change happens because they haven't been paying attention. You know, I just want to limit that as much as possible.
We're
And
not the first utility to do this, right?
No.
Mid-America, a lot of other utilities do this, it's pretty common, right?
Yeah.
Chris, one thing I might add to that too, if we were doing the mailing, which I think is a great idea, and realizing that we're doing this in partnership. I know he's not here tonight, but I'm happy to volunteer our communications manager to help design the mailing. If we want to spruce it up a little bit, we certainly want to support, and happy to help create the materials for that, as well as share in the expense, you know, for the mailing as well. I think that's all very fair and reasonable.
Yeah, perfect. I would love to have that opportunity, or should you guys choose.
Included in what, that monthly newsletter that comes with your statement?
Included in there as well, there would be an individual mailing that would be sent out for everyone. So
Yeah,
that
add
it
a
doesn't get
schedule,
lost
not
in
your
that.
normal bill.
Yeah, but I would go ahead and include it in there too.
Yes.
Some of us read those.
They're actually pretty good, so.
But not everyone gets their bill. Actually, it's the same thing, yeah, so.
Thanks, Chris. I'm generally supportive of this. We've done the same thing at Drake and my previous institution too, that these costs just continue to increase and go up, and we don't need to be covering these costs, and just like Jake, and this is a pretty significant expense at IMU too, that we need to be covering, and the, you know, certain ratepayers are paying by credit card and are being supplemented that cost by other ratepayers, and we don't need to be doing that. So I'm supportive of this, and I think we need to go about it the right way and make sure it's communicated, which is why I was asking Chris about that. The only two caveats that I had to Chris, and he kind of touched on both of these, is one, I want to make sure they do have a way to electronically pay, and as long as we have that ACH option, I'm pleased with that. And then the other one was, I don't want to make a margin on this, and I don't want to charge 3 or 4% if our costs are only 2%. And so I'm good with the plan that it sounds like Chris has in place for this.
So just out of ACH versus debit card, is that the same thing? Like, do the debit card, will that have an expense for those individuals?
Yes. Yeah, debit card processes like a credit card.
I just heard somewhere.
It's less
It's on the
expensive.
lower fee side though, right?
Yeah, it's a lower fee, but it does
Still
process like a
process
credit
like
card.
We would
I don't
charge the
have a
same
debit.
for a debit card or a credit card, but you could put in your banking information
For free, yeah.
for an ACH.
Do we need that in a motion and a vote?
All right, so, do we have a motion then to, carry forth with, including a fee onto the IMU bill?
Moved.
Second.
We need to
We
vote
need to do
separate
it
again.
separate.
Second.
No.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're having an audio problem, and so Tiffany is texting something. She wanted me to say a couple of things to keep the council in mind. A surcharge cannot be charged on a debit card, only on a credit card. A convenience fee can be charged for both. So she just wanted to add. So she's also delayed a little bit. She had to switch over to the YouTube channel. Federal law caps surcharges at 4% is what she would like me to say.
I think it's actually gonna be called a service charge. So it's not surcharge, it's not convenience fee, because convenience fees cannot be charged in person. It will be a service charge, and government, public entities are able to charge service charges.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's actually Allison saying that, not Tiffany. I read the wrong person's chat.
I think we have motion on, in a second from the city side. We need a motion in a second from the IMU side.
So moved.
Second.
Before we do that and vote, Chris, is there any additional discussion that we need to have? I'm just wondering if we need to take the action at a separate later meeting, or are you good with this?
I'm good at least with the, I'm good with the decision where we'll pass this on, or you'll see this formally adopted.
Okay.
We'll be at our schedule of fees. We'll add that on there and you'll vote on that at our next meeting. And that was gonna happen anyway. We'll just make sure to include this credit card service fee on that schedule of fees, and you'll officially adopt it when we pass all the rest of those.
Okay, I'm good with that.
You'll get the average percentage and get back to us on what that will be.
Yeah, yep, once Michelle's kind of exhausted all the data that we have, we'll make a stab at our, best recommendation, and we'll, go with that.
Sorry, question, will you need that in our fee schedule as well, or is just in the IMU fee schedule good?
We'd need it in ours too.
Okay, so whenever we'll just add that onto our fee schedule whenever it's set.
And so just that it's clear, you know, we will still have credit card fees. We will still be paying those to our processor, but then we will also be collecting the revenue, so they will offset.
Be passed through.
So you will still be paying the fees, city, right? But then you'll also receive your part of the credit.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. So you're not paying it.
Yep, no, makes sense.
Jackie, you wanna call roll?
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Sons?
Aye.
Davis?
Give her a second.
Yep.
It's a 20-second delay, actually.
Selby?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Selgrave?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Craven?
Yes.
Voight?
Yes.
She's typing. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so we have formally discussed item number 4 here. Unless anyone else has anything to talk about, we can adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move. Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Good meeting. Well, thanks, Chris, appreciate it.
You're
Thanks,
nicer.
Michelle.
You're nicer.
So they
Okay, I'm mute, can you hear me?
A little over a half hour.
I know, I was looking.
Appreciate it.
No. We have,
Hey, good job, Mayor.
I don't want this seat.
Yeah.
Good job.
I'm a poor man's Steve, I guess.
you